What's going on, everybody? You're tuning in to BottomLineSports.net, serving up deeper insight on everything sports. We're a little more than 2 weeks away until the Cowboys visit the Giants on September 5th in the season opener. But for all of us general managers out there, fantasy football season has arrived. Having a high draft position may be crucial to your success this year, and I'll tell you why. There's a trend in the NFL that started just before the turn of the century, and that trend won't ever change. Running back by committee. Every team in the NFL wants a platoon of running backs sharing carries to keep them healthy, and this year, that trend is highlighted more than ever. Today's episode will be dedicated to running backs, the position that will make or break your entire season in 2012. There's only four, count them four, running backs this year that are surefire studs in my opinion. In this order, I think number 1, Ray Rice, number 2, Arian Foster, number 3, LaShawn McCoy, number 4, Maurice Jones-Drew. If one of those players is available to you in the first round, you have to take them. Those were the most productive backs in 2011. They're less likely to get carries stolen from them. They're good pass catchers, and they have a low amount of risk associated with them. I put Rice at number 1, slightly ahead of Foster because Rice has a rookie as his backup. Bernard Pierce isn't going to take a lot of his touches. Meanwhile, Foster has Ben Tate backing him up, and Tate will probably get significant touches. I also think the Texans losing right tackle Eric Winston may hurt Houston's ground game just a little. Rice had 15 all-purpose TDs and led the league in yards from scrimmage with 2,068 yards last year. The dude had 76 catches for 704 yards and 3 TDs receiving. Rice is the Ravens' offense. While Foster is a stud, there will be some weeks where the Texans' passing game with Andre Johnson will be the focal point. There will never be a week where Rice isn't the focal point. McCoy, I have a hard time believing he's going to score 20 TDs like he did last year. Meanwhile, Andy Reid has said that he overworked McCoy last season, so I think Dion Lewis and Chris Polk will get a few more touches. Overall, though, Michael Vick will steal some of McCoy's TDs in the red zone, and the Eagles' passing game, similar to the Texans' passing game, will be more of the focal point on some weeks. McCoy is still as dynamic as they come, and definitely worth your first pick. Eagles' offense is going to score some points, and he's going to be the main man scoring them. MJD. He was the NFL's leading rusher last season by far, actually. He had 242 more rushing yards than Ray Rice. I think there's a positive and a negative to MJD this season. The positive is, I think the Jags' offense is going to be much improved, especially with the way Jacksonville has looked this preseason. Blaine Gabbert looks like he's ready to impress after stinking it up as a rookie. I think the Jags are going to move the ball and score some points, which will give MJD a chance to improve on his respectable 8 TDs last year. The negative is, the Jags aren't going to ride MJD like they have in recent years. His backup, Rashad Jennings, might finally give the team a decent number 2 back and cut into MJD's touches just a little. And in the red zone, an improved Gabbert has some weapons to throw it to. Rookie Justin Blackmon has had a good preseason. They got Laurent Robinson, Mike Thomas, and Mercedes Lewis. Still, I think the positive outweighs the negative because more red zone trips, period, will benefit MJD. Rounding out my top 10 running backs are number 6, Adrian Peterson, number 7, Darren McFadden, number 8, Marshawn Lynch, number 9, Chris Johnson, and number 10, Matt Forte. Those are my second-tier running backs because they all carry significant risk. But if those top 4 are taken, you should consider taking one of these guys. AP obviously coming off 2 devastating injuries, an ACL and an MCL, might struggle a little bit this season before he returns to form. It's safe to say that. McFadden, this guy would be a first-tier running back if he could just stay healthy. He was on his way to being that after the first 6 weeks of last season, but then he sprained his foot. This guy has been injured all 4 seasons in the league. He's also had toe, knee, and hamstring injuries. Fantasy supporters of McFadden point out that he'll get more of a chance to shine since Michael Bush left for the Bears, but to me that's actually a bad thing for McFadden. While the running back platoon is usually a bad thing, I think it would benefit McFadden and help keep him on the field. Now that he won't share as many carries, that might make him even more of a risk to get injured. Lynch, his risk is more about character and the offense around him. Remember, this guy was lost in the NFL from 2008 to 2010 and looked disinterested. Beast Mode still had 12 rushing touchdowns last year, and no one on the Seahawks roster is taking carries from him, but he might not bring it like he did last year since he got his big contract, and Seattle's O-line is a big question mark too, as it got hit with tons of severe injuries. Chris Johnson, I can see anybody taking CJ ahead of any running back other than the top four. But if you take CJ ahead of Rice, Foster, McCoy, or MJD, you're banking on a big-time bounce-back season, and I don't see it. That's because his drop-off last season was a major one. He rushed for more than 64 yards just once in his first 8 games. His 3 best games in the second half of the season came against the Panthers, Bucks, and Bills. Not very good defenses. CJ's supporters say, come on, he ran for 1,000 yards. But remember, not until the last week of the season. The fact that he only had 4 good games and 12 other average or below average ones makes him a risk to take in the first round. Forte, I like the guy, except he doesn't score TDs, and I think the first-tier running backs know how to find the end zone. He was on pace to lead the NFL in yards from scrimmage before he got injured in Week 13 versus the Chiefs. I'm not worried about that knee injury, and I think he's going to rack up the yards, but I look at a back that racks up yards as a RB2 rather than an RB1. Your RB1 has to get into the end zone consistently for you. Michael Bush is in Chicago now too, and he may get some of those looks in the red zone. However, just like any of these second-tier backs, if those top 4 have already been drafted, take them. Let me give you some sleepers at running back. These are backs that you might be able to find in later rounds. Trent Richardson. He's going to drop because he's a rookie. But if the running back situation didn't go your way early in the draft, Richardson might have the kind of year that can bail you out at the position. To me, he couldn't have looked more impressive in college. And if there's any back that's ready to contribute in the NFL as a rookie, it's this guy. Another rookie is one of my sleepers, Doug Martin. Tampa Bay is dying to get a new number 1 to replace LeGarrette Blount, who flopped big time at the end of last season. That's why they drafted Martin out of Boise State in the first round. He's versatile, he can pass block and catch out of the backfield, so there's a good chance he'll get a chance to shine in 2012. Isaac Redman may also be a guy to take a chance on. Pittsburgh's backfield has been hit hard with injuries. Rashard Mendenhall is still recovering from a torn ACL. He may play this season, but it'll likely be in the second half of the year. Jonathan Dwyer broke his foot. There's no way Rainey is going to be a feature back, so Redman could be a good pickup. He's shown some good flashes so far in his career, and he'll get the ball in the red zone. There's a couple guys I wanted to point out that you should be wary of this season. One of them is Frank Gore. San Francisco is going to run the ball, no doubt about that, but they have an extremely crowded backfield, and San Francisco clearly wants to limit Gore's touches. That's why they drafted LaMichael James and signed Brandon Jacobs from the Giants. Kendall Hunter is back there, and so is Anthony Dixon. The other guy you shouldn't jump on so quickly is Michael Turner. He struggled as the season wore on last season. He ran all over the Bucs, but everyone ran on the Bucs last year. They were dead last against the run. Other than a solid game against Tampa Bay, his last 6 games, including the playoff loss to the Giants, went like this. 321 rushing yards on 99 carries. That's 3.2 yards an attempt. Plus, the team loves Jacquizz Rodgers at Oregon State, who's definitely going to get some touches. I really feel like studying the running back position is the key to success this year in fantasy football. There's plenty of good quarterbacks, receivers, and defenses to take. But to win the championship, you're going to need production out of your running backs this year. Another key might be at tight end. Rob Gronkowski and Jimmy Graham were head and shoulders the best fantasy tight ends last year. To put their production in perspective, Gronk and Graham both finished with more points than Larry Fitzgerald. A bit of a drop-off after those 2 tight ends, though, so if you're going to take one of them, take them quick. If you're in a money league and you do win a fantasy football championship after listening to this video, you owe me 30% of your winnings. Cash only, please. Thanks for tuning in to BLS with me, Talal Masri. Make sure to like the BottomLineSports.net Facebook page. You can also follow me on Twitter at TSunSports. King Carleone, I appreciate it for real, man. I got to give big ups to my former coworker who's totally blown up recently, Scooter Magruder. He's made appearances everywhere, like ESPN, Today's Show, doing hilarious stuff on YouTube. I used to work with Scooter at a radio station here in Gainesville on the University of Florida campus, hosting sports talk shows and stuff. Had to throw him the alley. Make sure to check him out, and make sure to check me out on Thursday. Remember, doing it every Monday and Thursday now. That's it for today, though. I'm out.